How's it going, everybody? It's your World Champion here, and we are back to talk about Bleach. We have another arc to go through, a lot of fights in this one, and a lot of good character work and a lot of good world building done by Kubo in this little portion of Hueco Mundo. That's right, we've entered the world of the Hollows, and we'll talk a little bit more about Hueco Mundo as a setting here in a little bit, but where we last left off with our group, the boys just kind of crashed through Hueco Mundo. And yeah, they're just there to fight Aizen and the Espada and take them out and get Orihime back. And Chad and Uryu make quick work of some fodder that are there at the entrance. I'm not going to talk too much about that because really it's just a way for Chad and Uryu to show how far they've come in like the month plus that they've had to kind of get ready for this event. But yes, welcome to Hueco Mundo, the world of the Hollows. It's a desolate place, kind of like a desert with a massive, and by massive, I mean just ginormous castle in the middle of it, known as Las Noches. So Hueco Mundo's world building. A lot of people want to think of this world as like hell compared to the heaven that is the Soul Society. Well, the only thing wrong with that is that there's an actual hell in Bleach that we haven't gone to it yet in the main series. There's a movie about it, which maybe one day I'll talk about the movie, and of course this hell arc that Kubo's apparently planned for Bleach is happening. So I guess we'll get the actual hell in Bleach in the future. But Hueco Mundo, I know it's like based off of, I think it's like one of the cycles of like the Buddhist afterlife, where it's like this hunger, this desolate hunger location where like you're just hungry all the time. And we see that, you know, with the Hollows, they have to continuously eat in order to fill this void that they have. And you know, we get more of that later on in this arc about like how these Hollows have grown and just how instinctive they really are and how instinctive they still are even after becoming full-on arrancars and Espada. But Hueco Mundo, I mean, again, it's a big desert. Like, there's really nothing to it. Now, everything's kind of made of reishi and all that. So, like, we see some smaller hollows kind of in the sand, just eating their way through the dirt or, like, eating branches or anything. And we don't really get to see any other hollows right now. But yeah, Hueco Mundo, it's an alright kind of place. It's, again, it's more massive and grand because of Las Noches, and it's this huge castle. We see, you know, Ichigo, Chad, and Uryu, they start running towards it, and hours go by, and they're still nowhere close to it. Like, it is that big and that massive, and when we get to the fights inside of Las Noches, you kind of get the feeling of that, and you get to kind of see, okay, this is a really big place. While all this is going on, the Espada end up meeting, and we end up getting to see all 10 Espada in one room. These designs are fantastic. I actually really love the Espada as a group. I think they really work well. Well, they don't really work well together because a lot of them are kind of assholes, but there's a lot of different personalities and just a lot of different instincts and a lot of reasons of why each of them follow Aizen. And we even get to see just like how they treat Aizen as well, because, you know, Aizen walks in, he's just like, okay guys, well, we have some intruders, but first, let's get some tea. Let's drink some tea. This is really nothing. So, they're drinking some tea, he says who they are, and of course, Grimmjow's like, oh, Ichigo Kurosaki? Nah, I need to take care of this right now, and Aizen stops him, not physically, just with his spiritual pressure. With Aizen's spiritual pressure alone, he's able to put the 6th Espada down to his knee. That is how you rule when you're a king like this. Like, and that's the thing, like, Aizen is basically the king of Hueco Mundo, and Las Noches, again, is his castle, and the Espada are his knights. That's basically how I'm seeing their relationship with each other, and that's just the thing. The Espada, they respect Aizen because he's strong, and that's the whole thing with Hollows, is whoever's the strongest is on top. A lot of them have that kind of mindset. You know, we have Grimmjow with that mindset. Later on, we find out with Noitera, he has that mindset. a lot of, and even like Baragon has that mindset as well. They want to be the top dog. They want to be at the top, the pinnacle of a hollow. And that will give them purpose. Hopefully it will give them purpose, is what they strive for. So after this meeting, Aizen's basically like, look, don't go after them. Yeah, they're intruders and they're gonna maybe make a mess of a few things here and there, but don't really go after them. Just let them come to you and then take care of them. I don't need you just going off all willy-nilly. But of course, some of them don't listen to that, and we'll get to those when we get to them. After this meeting, we cut back over to Ichigo and the gang. They're still running towards Las Noches, and they meet up with a group of hollows led by a little child named Nell and her brothers, Donda Chaka, Pesce, and Bawa Bawa. They are basically the comic relief of this arc. And, so I don't want to speak too much about them, because there is a mystery behind them. And we see that throughout this arc as we continue to get deeper and deeper into Las Noches. And even Donda Chaka at a time says that if Nell continues to go deeper into the castle, something bad's going to happen. Whatever. This is their introduction. Comedy trio, quadruple, whatever have you. The comedy is a little hit or miss for me, but I think they work better when they are paired off with their Soul Reaper counterparts. They run into a giant sand hollow named Runaganga, and he stops the group, and they can't beat him because he's sand. Yeah, who knew a Getsuga Tensho couldn't defeat sand? But the only weakness is water, so just spit on him, you know? Maybe Nell can just drool on him. Maybe that'll help. I don't know, they're about to die. Until Rukia shows up! Rukia uses one of her very fun techniques with her Zanbakuto, and her and Renji are there to help out. And they scold Ichigo because, like, he had jumped the gun going into Hueco Mundo, even though they were going to come back and help him get there. And also finds out that Byakuya isn't really that bad of a guy. He's just kind of a dick. So, there's that. Now, the loophole they had with that, because I'm sure you're wondering, weren't they supposed to go back to the Soul Society and just stay there and prepare for war? Well, the loophole with that is Byakuya basically saying, look, I was ordered to bring you back here. I don't care what you do after that. Like, it's not my business. My orders were just to bring you back from this part. Not any other part, just this part right here. So that's a little loophole they found with that. And then we cut over with Ulquiorra and Orihime. They have this little moment here where Ulquiorra tells Orihime that Ichigo and the gang have now reached Las Noches, thanks to the help of the Desert Bandit Bros, or whatever name they want to come up with and hopefully stick with, because they came up with like 3 or 4 of them while they were there. Now, this is all from the manga. The anime had this filler arc, like this filler mini arc, where they ended up in the Menos Forest, and there was a Soul Reaper there that he was just stuck there and all that, and they had to fight an Ahucha and get out of there and all that. I didn't want to talk about it too much. I just wanted to at least mention it, because to my knowledge, and hopefully somebody can correct me if I'm wrong with this, Kubo had something to do with that little mini arc, because I think he wanted to include it in the main series. I think. If somebody can remind me of that, please do, because I remember that just being a thing. So back over to Las Noches, everybody entered and they're running down the hallways. Now they do tell Nell and her brothers to stay behind because they might die. But Nell had a very good point, which was, hey, we kind of already betrayed Aizen. We're dead anyway, so we might as well just stick with you. Now, while all this is going on, it's still Orihime and Ulquiorra having their discussion. Ulquiorra has been tasked with, babysitting Orihime. And, after he had told her that her friends are there to save her, he quietly reminds her, hey, they might be here to save you, but you also came here on your own free will. Like, you chose to be here. So declare right now, who is it that you are here for? And Orihime just like kind of defeated too. She just says that she's there for Aizen. So she declares herself to Aizen, and that's about it with that part. Now, after Ulquiorra is done, he ends up leaving the room, and Noitaro's there, just kind of picking on him, saying, "Oh, you're having fun, aren't you?" And this is where we see Aizen's grand plan with Orihime. If it wasn't obvious enough beforehand when Ulquiorra was pulling this off, basically, Aizen left many mental traps for Orihime and made her think that she was coming on her own free will to him. And it was all just an elaborate ruse to try to get her away from the battlefield and like to kind of hopefully trap some people into Hueco Mundo in order to like save her and all that. And I mean, everybody's just walking into Aizen's trap, you know? And I love every moment of it. He even like brought Orihime to his chambers and showed her the Hogyoku. And this right here, it ties into also Orihime and her little plan and her resolve of being there. Because once she sees the Hogyoku and she gets an explanation from Aizen about what her powers are, she starts to think, okay, this is what I'm here for. I thought I was here just to protect everybody. No, I'm here to destroy the Hogyoku. Only I can do that, and I will do that. So we are starting to see character growth from Orihime. So everyone they had saw like, oh, Orihime, he's such a boring character. No, she had the resolve. She has the resolve to confront a god and to take his main tool and destroy it. She knows the consequence that might come with that. She knows it's going to be hard to even get back to that room while Aizen's not there, and when people don't see her just walking down a hallway. Oh, what are you doing, Miss Orihime? Why are you out of your room? Oh, nothing, just, you know, I want to go see Aizen. Oh, well, Aizen's over here. Why don't you go see him? You know, it's going to be difficult for her to do that. But she's now has the resolve to do that. She's resolving herself in order to pull this off. And kudos to her, because she's gone from this timid little girl to being scared to do anything, even scared to fight sometimes, to now she's actively going to try to do something. Great. Awesome. I love seeing this. And this also is a good stick-it to all the people that were like, oh, well, you can't really make it on the battlefield. No. Okay, fine. Fine. I won't be on the front lines on the battlefield. I'll be in the back. I'll do my own things. I'll be in the shadows doing my own things, you know? So, a little mini right there. I love Orihime's character in this arc, and it only gets better from here, too. Now we have to talk about a bunch of fights. So with our gang here now, we got, you know, Chad, Uryu, Ichigo, Rukia, Renji, and of course, the Desert Brothers. They end up, you know, going into Las Noches, and they find this chamber that has like 5 different doors in it. And Ichigo and his friends decide, okay, we need to probably split up here. There's a little moment there where Ichigo's worried about Rukia, and they do this little chant to vow that they'll come back alive, and they go their separate ways. Turns out the Sand Brothers also follow them. We have Nell with Ichigo, and she's just crying, being like, I want to be with you, Ichigo. It's a lot of fun. Don't leave me behind. We have Donda Chaka with Renji, and we have Pesce with Uryu. The comedy with these duos and all that works a lot better than when they're together, I think, because when they're together, it's very, to me, it's a little too chaotic. For me, the comedy I like a lot, especially in like anime and all that, is the funny man and the straight man. And I think with Uryu and Pesce, they really get that done really well. Donachaka and Renji, kind of a little bit. Renji's one of those weird characters where it's like really weird to see him in a comedy setting, because he can be serious at times. But I don't know, they were okay. Ichigo and Nell was more like a big brother and a little sister kind of thing, because again, Ichigo's the type that wants to protect others and all that. So as everybody's running down the hallways and all that, some of our group end up meeting some Espada. But not just any Espada, they're known as the Privaron Espada. So Ichigo, Chad, and Uryu each have a Privaron Espada to fight and just kind of show off how far they've come. there's not really too much with some of these fights. Again, kind of like the earlier one when they first got into Hueco Mundo, where it's like just showing them how far they've come. This is more of that showcase of showing us what they've learned in their training. So I'm actually going to start a little backwards with these. I'm going to start with Chad versus Gantenbein. This was an alright fight, a little short if I'm being honest, and not really a lot of emotional weight towards it. It was, again, mainly just showing us how far Chad's come. And Chad, oh, has he come far? And does he fall far after this? This might be the last big Chad moment that we have in the series. My memory on the 1,000-Year Blood War is spotty at best, so I don't remember too much of Chad in that arc. But here, we get to see what his ultimate power-up is. Yeah. So his right arm turns into like this giant shield, and it's like his ultimate defense. And when he transforms his arm into that, and he has like all this, he has more power, he has more speed, he can keep up with a Privaron Espada and all that. Whereas his left arm is now his attacking arm. So now he has a sword and a shield, he can attack, he defeats the guy in like one punch. That's about it. We'll get to the end of that fight in a little bit though, because something happens at the end of that kind of sets off a lot of other stuff. Next is Uryu versus Tsuruchi. Now, quick caveat here, I like Tsuruchi's design. I don't know what about it I like. I don't know if it might be like the goth girl kind of look on it. But man, I remember back in the day just absolutely loving this design of Tsuruchi. But yeah, this is just another, like, there's some comedy bits here with Uryu and Pesce, but overall, like, the fight, again, just to kind of showcase Uryu, you know, he has now this Seele Schneider, which is a bladed Quincy weapon, but, you know, of course, obviously, they don't use blades or anything, which is also kind of a lie, but that's neither here nor there. Uryu ends up making quick work of Tsuruchi. He doesn't kill her. He does the same thing that he did to that one Soul Reaper during Soul Society arc, where he just kind of cut off the lines of spiritual pressure so that way she couldn't even fight anymore. I mean, that's basically it with that fight. There's really not too much with it. Again, comedy bits with Pesce here and there. Then we have Ichigo versus Dordoni. So this fight had some emotional weight to it, and this is where you get the lore dump of what a Privaron Espada is, and basically, again, more of what the Espada and what the arrancar, how they feel towards Aizen, like, because there is a commonality between all of them. So with Dordoni, he confronts Ichigo, and he wants Ichigo to fight him with all of his strength. Like, he keeps pushing him to use his Bankai, he keeps pushing him to use his Hollow Mask, like, he keeps pushing Ichigo to the point where Ichigo, like, he gets a little frustrated because he doesn't want to use his Bankai right now. He wants to save that for the real Espada, but unfortunately, the Privaron Espada used to be Espada. Like, they used to have single-digit numbers. It's just that they are now, like, fallen swords, if you will, of the Espada. So, because they're fallen, they are no longer part of that group. I think for a time, Grimmjow counted as this. I think. I want to say yes. He never, like, officially became one. He was just kind of discarded and all that. Or I guess not discarded. He was disgraced from his fight with Ichigo and going against Aizen's orders. So with Grimmjow, he didn't really get like a 3-digit number, because that's another thing too. How you can tell who was a Privaron Espada. They have 3-digit numbers instead of the regular 1 or 2 digit. But yeah, he keeps pushing Ichigo, and Ichigo finally gets to the point where, okay, here's my mask, dead. I told you, only for an instant. And yeah, Dordoni lasted an instant against Ichigo's Hollow Mask. Oh, some other things that happen in this fight too. Nell gets involved, and we get to see some of what powers Nell has. So apparently she can absorb Ceros, not through her body, like through her mouth, and then she just spits them out even stronger. So there's that, and then her drool can heal you. So there's that. Oh, excuse me, vomit. It's her vomit that can heal you. because she literally like sticks her hand in her mouth, grabs her uvula, and just bleh, all over you. And yeah, it heals you. It's great. It's awesome. But yeah, what I was getting at with like the Espada, the arrancar, these hollows that follow Aizen, the reason that the Privaron Espada and why like Dordoni was so pushy with Ichigo and why like Tsuruchi was so pissed off with Uryu, and we see a little bit with Gantenbein, but not really. They were disgraced warriors, so they're trying to find a way where they can get their honor back. And honor's a big thing for a warrior here. So that's why Dordoni, he wanted to feel that again, that rush of energy, that rush of passion, just going all out, like finding his honor again and using Ichigo to get to that spot. And unfortunately for him, it doesn't really work out. And the same with the others, they end up falling to Ichigo, Uryu, and Chad just because they're just not strong enough. And we get a little moment with Ichigo and Dordoni where you think he's going to let him go, but then he charges at him again after getting healed. Ichigo quickly cuts him down, runs away. So as Ichigo's running away, Dordoni is just standing there, and he meets up with this group called the Exekias, which I guess are basically the punishment force for Aizen. They're there to take Dordoni, and they end up doing the same to Tsuruchi. So either it's to take their lives or take them somewhere else. There was a lot of theories about what was going on with the Exekias and where they were taking like Tsuruchi and Dordoni, whether they actually killed them or what. We find out way later on what happens with them, but that's a discussion for another time. All the Privaron Espada are gone. They're defeated. And Chad, he stands pretty tall after defeating Gantenbein, and who is there but Noitara? So Noitara has been trying to find the strongest. He's pulling a Zaraki right now, trying to find the strongest warrior to face. He meets up with Chad. Chad gives him the same punch he gave Gantenbein, but that didn't do shit on Noitara, and he just cuts down Chad. Everyone feels that happening, and they react to it. Ichigo's just like, look, we vowed to meet back up alive. Chad, there's no way you could be dead. Which he's not, you know, he's still fine. Noitara just leaves him and just walks away. And we get another Orihime and Ulquiorra moment, where Ulquiorra is trying to give Orihime some food, and he kind of teases her a little bit. Well, I guess not teases her, like kind of questions her morality and all that. And one of your friends is already dead. You know, they're marching towards their dooms, you know. And Orihime, again, in a great character moment, just slaps the shit out of Ulquiorra. And he just stands there, you know, he took it and all that. And of course her hand like really hurts because he's atop Espada and he has a very hard skin. So of course that hurt her hand. And so he's just kind of standing there like this and looks at her back. And he just says, look, I'll give you some time. Go ahead and eat. And if you don't eat anything, I will force it down your throat. So eat. So now we get to a point where we start fighting some Espada. And the first thing we see is Renji and Donchaka, who end up falling down a hole and meeting up with Szayelaporro. Renji can't use Bankai now, because Szayelaporro pulled a Dr. Gero by having like these little tiny like hollow things on his brother. Oh, who's his brother, you might ask? Oh, it was the arrancar that Renji fought. I forgot his name. So there's that. That's how he was able to seal Renji's Bankai. And so, you know, Renji tries to fight him. It's not really going too well. And we just cut away from that fight for a bit. Because now we have probably one of the two big fights in this section. Rukia versus Aaroniero. This was a very emotional fight. The thing with Iron, I always get his name wrong. Aaroniero. The thing with him is that he eats other hollows and he can absorb their powers. What ends up happening is he ate a certain hollow that absorbed a certain Soul Reaper that Rukia killed a while ago. That's right, he can take on the form of Cayenne Shiva, which he does in this fight. And it's not just the form either. He can access his memories, his body, like that's how he can use his Zanpakuto and all that stuff. Like, it's pretty convincing. Like, he is able to trick Rukia for a little bit, making her think that that is the real Kai Shiba. And, you know, they do have a little chat, and you actually do kind of think it might actually be Kai Shiba. But, you know, there's two big things. One is the fact that Aaroniero has a weird voice. You know, like, the weird voice that Aaroniero met with Rukia was totally different than when they went into this building, which is thing number two. Aaroniero like, we need to talk inside this building. Now, they give a good enough reason, like saying that, okay, Las Noches, like everything underneath Las Noches' ceilings, Aizen can see, so that's why they had to go inside. Oh, that also reminds me, Rukia gets to see like the inside part of Las Noches, and it's basically like these blue skies and daylight. So Aizen likes his daylight and all that. They end up having a fight because Aaroniero like attacks Rukia. Aaroniero does try to like convince Rukia to like either just lay there and die for me because you killed me, and also tries to convince Rukia to kill her friends. Now that's what really sets Rukia off. She could like handle the, oh, you killed me so I have to kill you kind of shtick. She could have handled that. The fact that she had heard from Kai Shiba's mouth to kill her own comrades, nah. That was the moment where she's like, no, you are not Cayenne. And she spent some time trying to prove it. She even like blows up a wall and it shines on Aaroniero, and turns out that that's the only way they can like transform is in the darkness. So yeah, we get to see Aroniero's ugly self, and then they keep having a fight, and it's really emotional because Rukia, even though she's like resolved herself to fight Aaroniero and to, you know, free Cayenne's body from all this, she's still like struggling with this because again, it's Kai Shiba. It's somebody that she respected to a great point. We get to see our first Espada release. I don't count Loopy's in this because I didn't really count him as an Espada anyways. So we get to see our first true Espada release, Aroniero's Gluttoneria. And this thing is blood ugly and probably the biggest mistake Aaroniero made. He does stab Rukia, and Rukia ends up in a really cool way too. I really like how Rukia wins this fight. So her sword's broken in half, and she's lifted up by like this trident, the trident of Cayenne's. And, you know, Aroniero's like talking down to her, and she like puts her sword up, uses her third dance, and I think it's called Shirafune. Yeah. And it like creates the sword through his head and kills him. So Aroniero's dead, and apparently Rukia also dies, quote unquote. I'm just gonna leave it there. But here's the thing about this. Aaroniero had a special ability where once they died, like they were connected to all the other Espadas in Las Noches. So once they died, everyone else got the report. And not only just the Espada, but also, you know, Aizen, Gin, Tozen, and Orihime. Orihime starts flipping out. She's like banging on the door like, no, Rukia, no, I have to go save her. Somebody help me. Let me out of here. I need to fight and save Rukia. Help, help. So yeah, Rukia's down. Aroniero's down. Renji hears this from Szayelaporro and kicks it up a notch against him. And then Ichigo meets up with Ulquiorra. And this is their first round fight here. Ichigo and Ulquiorra. Oh, this was good because they meet each other, and this speaks so well on Ichigo's character too, because he sees Ulquiorra. He knows that he's like a top Espada. He knows that he needs to defeat Ulquiorra eventually, and he knows that Ulquiorra was there with like a lot of different things going on, and is somewhat close to Aizen. He doesn't know all there is to know about Ulquiorra, and Ulquiorra knows this. So Ichigo, finding out that Rukia is down, he says, nah, I'm not going to fight you right now, Ulquiorra. I need to go save my friend right now. I need to make sure that she's fine. And he has no reason to fight Ulquiorra because Ulquiorra has yet to hurt anybody. And then Ulquiorra's like, oh, okay, well, alright, that's fine. Even though I didn't hurt anybody, what if I told you that I was the reason Orihime left you guys? And that sets Ichigo off. He tells Nell to get away. He goes right into Bankai. He goes right into holification and goes right after Ulquiorra, just going after him with many Getsuga Tenshos, black ones, mind you, and he thinks he has it won. He thinks he does, and Nell's all like, oh, Ichigo, you did it. You beat Ulquiorra. And then the dust settles, and Ulquiorra's just like, he's got a burnt hand and a sleeve that's been ripped. That's it. That's it. This did nothing to Ulquiorra. Like, this kind of power, like, it scarred Grimmjow, who's only number 6. So with that amount of power, and only like a little burn on his hand, and he even made a comment like, oh, I had to use 2 hands for that one. Holy shit, dude, what kind of power do you have? So Ichigo realizes, oh shit, we're fucked. And he gets kicked by Ulquiorra outside of the building. He's already like battle damaged now. He's trying to run away with Nell in his hands. Ulquiorra just like shows up and kicks him back. Like, he is just toying with Ichigo. And like, just it's sad and pitiful. Like, Ichigo's getting demolished by Ulquiorra. Like, he's in a class of his own in this. And Ichigo, just being the never give up punk that he is, tries to stab Ulquiorra as he's like leaning there dying. And he's like, I have to defeat you because you're the top Espada, aren't you? You're number 1. If I can beat you, then this can all just be done and over with. Ulquiorra's like, oh, that's cute. You think I'm number 1. And he just takes Ichigo's sword, just kind of like rips his shirt with it, and it's revealed that Ulquiorra is only Espada number 4. Let this sink in for a little bit. Ichigo and Grimmjow, they're relatively even, and only 2 spaces above that, only 2, is Ulquiorra. And he can stop just about all of Ichigo's attacks? Easily, mind you? Bro. And he's only number 4! Which means there are 3 others! Which means there's somebody that's even like 3 spots above Ulquiorra! There's somebody that powerful in Aizen's ranks. This is an insane review. I remember when I first saw this reveal growing up. This blew my freaking mind. How is Ichigo gonna win this? How does he win this? This was insane. And then Ulquiorra just like stabs Ichigo with his hand and just like, yeah, no, you're boring now. Okay, bye. And Ichigo dies. Like, he's pretty much dying here from Ulquiorra. And that's about it. Like, that's all we got. Now, I didn't really talk much about the other Espada's reactions to Aaroniera's death. The only one I want to mention is Stark. Stark's reaction to Aaroniera's death really speaks to his character and what we find out later on. So he has his fracciones there, which we find out here in a little bit what those are. And she's kind of picking on Stark a little bit, and she's like, hey, we had a friend die. So not just like a comrade in arms or just another person like, oh, Aaroniero died. No, a friend died. And Stark's just like, whatever. Just keep that in the back of your mind, like how one is worried about a friend dying and one is just like very nonchalant about it. We'll cover Stark in due time. Don't worry about that. But now we're gonna cut over to Renji and Szayelaporro again. They're still having their fight, and Uryu ends up showing up along with Pesce. The whole gang's here. They fight Szayelaporro. They're able to get one up on him, you know. Renji uses the Shakuho Red Flame Cannon attack at point blank range on Szayelaporro, and then Uryu uses an attack that like takes 5 different Seele-Schneidas. They like make the Quincy sign, the cross, and basically making a huge explosion in there. And it does some damage to Szayelaporro. Yeah, he took some damage from that, but he's not dead. No, he's not dead. Instead, he takes one of his fracciones, which are basically just arrancars that follow around the Espada. They're like their attendants and all that. And he eats one of them. And he heals himself. And then he leaves saying, oh, I just need a change of clothes. It's fine. Just, we'll continue this later on, okay? I need to change. So he leaves. There's really not much to this fight, at least right now at this point. There's a lot more when we get to round 2. But round 1, pretty basic, pretty simple. Now we get to the main event of this little part of the arc. We're leading up to Grimmjow versus Ichigo. These two arrancar girls. It's like Lolly and Meredy, I think. I don't know, I forgot their names. Basically, they're two bitches. The one hates Orihime. She hates the fact that Orihime is getting all this praise from Aizen, that she is Aizen's like go-to person right now, and everybody's all talking about Orihime, Princess Orihime, and all this bullshit. Again, this kind of is leaning towards that instinctive, like animalistic traits that the Hollows have. You know, she's feeling that she's not getting the praise from Aizen, so she's jealous. She's gonna just pick on Orihime a little bit, which they do. You know, they beat up Orihime. And then Grimmjow shows up, kills the one girl, and tells Orihime, hey, we're heading now. Not before Uryu heals them and heals herself. Which kind of messes with the one girl's mind. She's like, ugh, I still hate her. Why? Why did she heal me? Why did she have to do that? She didn't have to at all, and yet she did. I hate her for that. But yeah, Orihime heals Ichigo. Now, what happens to Ulquiorra during all this? Well, Grimmjow puts like this cube inside of his hole and basically traps him in another dimension for like a couple hours. Yeah, he's basically there for a couple hours and they have enough time to have their fight. So Ichigo and Grimmjow both get healed by Orihime, and she puts up a little barrier, and we finally have round 3, Ichigo versus Grimmjow. I love this fight so much. I love it. Every single time I get to watch it, every single time I get to read it, it is so freaking good. You know, not just the choreography either, just the story around it too, because these two have been fighting each other off and on for like the past month or so. And we're finally seeing the final battle. You know, Ichigo holofying, Grimmjow finally seeing his release. And he has one of my favorite release designs of the Espada, bar none. It is one of my favorite. And then just like his backstory of how he became an Ahucha, and how like the ones like Xiaolong and the rest that came with him to the real world, like they were a group of Ahuchas, and they made Grimmjow their king. So when it was time that they realized they weren't evolving anymore, because oh my god, just all the lore we get from this too, like with Hollows. So we find out how Menos Grandes are actually made. Basically, with Hollows, if they can't find anything else to eat, they will eat other Hollows. So after they eat a whole bunch of Hollows, they end up becoming a Menos Grande. Sometimes with Menos, one personality might overrun most of the others, and they'll kind of take over. So then the Menos eat other Menos, and then eventually an Ahucha is born. And then that Ahucha, all they feel is hunger. And that's all they want to do. All they want to do is eat other Hollows. And so they end up going, you know, just running around trying to eat other Hollows. And apparently once an Ahucha has been consumed, like any part of its body, they cannot evolve anymore. And so Xiaolong and their group, they resolve themselves to that. They feel like, okay, we can't become kings. We can't rise above and become what we want to. But you can, Grimmjow. You are our king. You are the strongest. You can do this. So devour us, eat us, become stronger. And you know, Grimmjow does that. And he becomes their king. And again, it's that animalistic instinct of being the alpha. It's there. It's right there. There's that emotional weight with it. As long as you pay attention, it's right there. And then not even with that, he calls out Ichigo on being there. Like, Ichigo's just like, no, I'm here to save Orihime. Nah, that's not going past Grimmjow. He calls him out on that bullshit. He's like, nah, you didn't come here to save that woman. No, you came here to fight me. You're using that as an excuse. You would have come here anyways looking for a fight, especially with me. Do not lie. Again, it's one of the things too with Grimmjow and Ichigo is it's the eyes. Like, Grimmjow hates the eyes that Ichigo has because Grimmjow's so used to people like looking at him and having fear in their eyes and being so cowardly and being so small towards him. Whereas with Ichigo, every time Ichigo looks at Grimmjow, he has the eyes of determination. He is determined to defeat Grimmjow. He is ready to beat him. And the thing is, in Ichigo's eyes, he always thinks he can beat Grimmjow. And it eats at him alive. That's why he kept the scar. That's why he kept going after Ichigo. That is the reason behind Grimmjow. And he... oh my god, this fight is just so filled with emotion. And just that weight just comes just crashing down. And then the whole time, Orihime is looking at this. And this is her first time, like, seeing Ichigo fight like this. Like a hollow. We even see that. We even get that explained to us by Haribel and her Fracciones. Because they're watching this fight go on, and Haribel's like, oh, well, this looks like a fight between two Espada. That's what this is. So Ichigo and Grimmjow, you know, they're fighting and all that. Like, Nell kind of starts freaking out a little bit, but Orihime tries to put some kind words into her. But it's one of those things where, like, she's also trying to tell herself that. Where, like, you know, Ichigo's gonna be fine. He's gonna be fine. Don't worry. When he says that, when he says he's gonna win, he's going to win. But even Orihime is, like, shaking a little bit. And in turn, Nell helps Orihime out too. She's like, she starts cheering on Ichigo and all that, and Orihime just watching Ichigo just go into this. She even gets like a good close-up of Ichigo hollowified because like he blocks his attack that could have killed her, and she gets terrified from it. Like she kind of steps back a little bit, and there's a moment where, and God, I love it so much. There's this part where Ichigo gets knocked back into a pillar. It's the same pillar that like Orihime and Nell are on as they're watching this. He gets knocked back, and Grimmjow's coming in for probably a final attack. And Orihime just screams, "Don't die, Ichigo." And he, oh my god, like, oh, it's so good. Like, she screams that, and she's just like, just don't die, whatever you do. Like, I don't care if you win or lose, just don't die. What happens next? Oh my god. Ichigo and his resolve. Like, his resolve power is ridiculous. Because what happens next? So, Grimmjow's going in with this attack. And I love how the anime does it. Ichigo grabs Grimmjow's hand, and Grimmjow, like, stops. Like, he just stops like that. And, like, you see, like, the wind blow by. And Ichigo's, like, he didn't even look at Grimmjow when he did that. Like, he didn't even look at him. But he's just holding him like this. He's just like, sorry, Grimmjow. Looks like I can't get hurt anymore. And just slices Grimmjow. And that enters our final stage of the fight, where Grimmjow has, like, this final attack that he has with like, these claws and all that. Launches them at Ichigo, and we get the little speech. And, of course, in the anime, we got #1 playing right here. And Ichigo's just like, I'm going to defeat you. I'm going to defeat the other Espada. I'm going to defeat Aizen. I'm taking everyone back with me. And we're ending this right here, right now. And he does it. And he beats Grimmjow. Oh, I've got this. I love this fight. I love it a lot. Again, the choreography is so good. Anime and manga too. The moments with like Orihime and Ichigo are so good. Grimmjow's backstory of how like animalistic the hollows are, and just again, it just because it's not only just him that feels that way or like gets that way, it's all the Espada. I can in their own different ways. Like they all have different personalities, they all have different ways of doing things, but at the end of the day, they're all loyal to Aizen in some sort of way. But they all want to be the top, and that's just the thing. They have that animalistic instinct. Oh, it's so good. And then, of course, Ichigo, he lets Orihime down, lets Nell down, and everything's fine. They're about to head on out. He even helps, like, Grimmjow fall down gracefully, and Grimmjow's not done yet. Like, even though his resurrection goes away, like, he's not done yet. He wants to continue fighting, and Ichigo's like, well, no, you're done. You're defeated. Game over. Then Ulquiorra shows up out of nowhere, just bam, right on Grimmjow. And I thought Grimmjow died from this. He might have. I don't know. I don't remember, but yeah, he gets injured from that, and that's what takes Grimmjow down. Is Ulquiorra showing up and being like, "All right, you had your fun, Grimmjow. Now it's my turn." And that's where we're gonna leave this part of the arc because, after Ichigo and Grimmjow, I need a bit of a break. And also, this is the part in the anime where, I'm sorry if you were anime only, but if you wanted to see what happened after Grimmjow fight, well, too bad. You got a 26 episode filler to watch about a new captain for Squad 3 and a princess. Yeah, hopefully you like that. Hopefully you like filler anime onlys, because that happens. But all in all, I really like this arc a lot. If I had to give it a grade, I'd give it a B+. Not that anything was egregiously bad. It's just there was a lot of it's the beginning of the arc, so there's a lot of slow parts, a lot of setting up for later on, and a lot of lore dump too. That's really kind of cool, but it's stuff that we kind of needed as well. But it gets that plus because of Ichigo and Grimmjow. And yeah, I mean, overall, I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it. But let me know down in the comments what you thought of this Hueco Mundo Part 1 arc that I've entailed with this. Be sure to leave a comment down below. Again, let me know your thoughts on everything. Be sure to like the video if I entertain you in any way, shape, or form. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next Bleach arc review. And as always, hit the bell icon so you get notified every time I upload a video. And as always, people, I've been your world champion. Catch you guys in the next one. See ya.
I don't need you. Better things are coming on the way.